Breaking news from the beautiful Sonoma Valley.
Jay, your mic's doing that thing again. You know,
Damn it. All right, how about now?
Yeah, better. That's it, yeah.
Okay, all right. Hey, everybody, we're just back from Sonoma Raceway, and let's get into it. So, news at this race, Birdie, my dog, made her Lemons debut. Speaking of making their Lemons debut, we had Old Fart Racing in their Jetta TDI and their Old Timey theme.
We had Rookies Piss Jug Racing with their 87 RX-7 former drift missile, and we also had Bucket List Racing with the 87 300ZX. This car had the whole kitten's caboodle, including the coveted Japanese market Beams motor.
Rookies Keegan's Racing Friends brought their Fiero with a fantastic Grillo's Pickles theme and even real Grillo's sponsorship. That was pretty good work there for a bunch of rookies. Their driving, perhaps less impressive.
This 87 Corolla had been around Lemons for a while. It showed up with the Screamin' Seamen, which is a college team from the Vallejo Maritime Academy, and this was their senior project. Now, I know what you're thinking, but never judge a book by Danny Glover. They did get it out on the track.
Just briefly.
And then it crapped out, and they spent the entire time in the paddock for the whole weekend trying to get running. But they did bribe the judges with some life raft rations. They had a faint taste of defeat, gotta say.
You have failed conclusively.
At this race, we had great judges. We had Chris, Eric, and Jim. And I think we all know why they do it.
The clothes and the free creams and lotions.
Yep, you hit the nail on the headlight. At this race, we were given cake, ice cream, hot dogs, and not one but 2 eggs. We also got some tasty ear candy from the No Par Brass Band. And in return, we doled out some spectacular penalties. We had dad jokes.
What do you call a vampire's dog?
I don't know.
A bloodhound.
We had hula hooping. Some old dudes got their nails did.
For 84 years, I've never had many candy. And it's high time.
These two gentlemen had contact on the track, so we forced them to have even more contact off the track. We also had the world-renowned Saran Wrap penalty. And another group of penalized drivers had to wander the paddock singing a song about spam.
Hella sweet. I mean, who doesn't love spam?
Well, yeah, I'm not a huge fan, but Charlize Theron.
You mean to each their own?
Potato, tomato.
The 3 or More Amigos, great team name by the way, they got the hood prize penalty, which meant they had to take their hood off the car, schlep all the way down Highway 37 to Six Flags, and display it for a photograph. And the slow orange themed Corolla, well, they had a crazy off in the carousel, but we were busy, so we just let them off easy with a hand washing penalty. And why were we so busy? Well, the Sturcor Supra, we don't like this, they had a rollover. Fortunately, it was a pretty easy slow motion rollover. Nevertheless, they went up on the roof, and look at this cage. I gotta say, if you're gonna have to do something like this, build your cages like this. This is why we have that rule.
'Tis but a scratch.
Alright, a few Hella Sweets. Distilled Racing was back with their 1941 Ford Coupe and a Hella Sweet pit vehicle. Yeah, a little but terrible, we saw the return of Run CRV. Now, in the past, these guys have always found a way to step on their own wieners, but this time, that's also what happened. They found themselves between a rock and a slippery slope when they blew yet another head gasket, then they broke a head bolt and had to jury-rig their own little time cert for that broken bolt, which worked, but then the head gasket just completely went.
The guys from Electric Turtle were back. They have become legendary for their relatively unstressed method of recharging their EV, Lemons Racer, and they're starting to do fun stuff while charging. This time, they went to Train Town.
One team having a less leisurely weekend was Wet and Reckless. They had contact with the Blazer that tore off the bumper cover and sent it through their windshield. They called Enrique down at Auto Glass Warehouse in San Rafael, who replaced it splickety-lit. Turns out they weren't the only Lemons racers in need of a new windshield over the weekend, but we'll burn that bridge when we get there. Anyways, the Blazer guys offered to pay for the new windshield. Two teams became fast friends.
You're my best friend, that's it.
That Blazer team, none other than Barely Legal, who came all the way from Louisiana to enjoy the fruits of California wine country. They have an 84 Blazer and a Forester, and the Blazer in particular gets a fair amount of $500 my ass criticism, but I've got a bone toothpick with that. To those who don't appreciate a masterpiece like this in Lemons, I think you should ask yourself, why did the lights go dark and the sound of laughter fall silent? How did the roses lose their sweet, sweet fragrance? And perhaps most dreadful of all, when did I abandon joy?
Team Art Glass, who usually runs a Datsun pickup EV, changed it up. They brought a BRZ, $500 my ass! And their theme was Theme. On the subject of themes, Team Cyber was back. Their theme this time was protesting BMWs. And on the subject of protest themes, Eric's protest against the Cyber was to give them this bribe stencil. And speaking of themes, and Anton's theme was just being at this race. He brought his 544. It wound up being the 6th DNF in a row for this poor guy. He tries so hard. So they melted a bunch of radiator hoses first. He said, I know, I'll make a heat shield. All that did is it kept the heat in and it pointed it at the alternator. He cooked the alternator. Turns out the alternator, that's not really a Volvo alternator. That comes from a rare tractor. And it's Saturday and all the tractor stores are closed. After that, multiple unrelated issues, bolts backing out, other electrics crapping out. Poor guy.
Now, Ska Patrol also had a bit of a wrenching odyssey. They noticed that one of the transmission mount brackets was broken, so they put in a bunch of work to fix that. But it turns out they were barking up the wrong horse. The mount wasn't the main issue. It was actually the drive shaft flopping around, so they dropped it out and accidentally broke the exhaust on the way out. Welder extraordinaire Erica Snow came to the rescue and patched up that exhaust as Scott Patrol's team captain planned an elaborate heist to steal the drive shaft out of his daughter's Audi. Not the first time they've plundered parts from her car, and they always put things back together, so she has remained blissfully unaware unless she watches these videos. They got it back out and running for a while, but then they accidentally put a jack through the oil pan, and that was the straw that broke their camelback.
That doesn't sound right.
Junk Propulsion Laboratory came with an excellent Pirates theme, and I do mean all kinds of pirates, including porch pirates. Team Valiant Effort brought their Hitchhiker's Guide theme into their best finish ever, which was actually
42.
I was super stoked to see the Seawolf and their Volvo 740, which was fresh off of a Lemons rally. They did an S3 Viking thing because their dads used to fly War Hoovers. It was awesome.
The PT3 RS of sequel injection racing had clutch problems, and the PT Cruiser engine bay is infamously a nightmare, so they missed all of Saturday trying to get their ducks in a rowboat.
Does something feel off about this guy?
And then number 100 was the Corolla a la Wingo from Cars. It had a ridiculous wing that's obviously producing all the downforce, and we were all like a deer with headlights when this thing showed up. Hell sweet.
GT Porty made short work of a head gasket failure to get the car back out on track. Very exciting to the kids. Speaking of which, Papa Smurf, that was another family team. Daughter, dad, grandpa. One of them had this experience. We're going to let you guess which.
Your guess is as good as mine.
And then Initial Jeep, they brought this Cherokee. And this is sort of a complicated story. So the car sort of sucks. Actually, it's not complicated at all. Car sucks.
Last Place Racing had a funny but inexplicable theme. Now, they also finished 24th, which maybe goes to show that low expectations are key to Lemon's success. The Pony Keg Oldsmobile Cutlass Brougham Supreme is one of several Lemons cars with a horse head mounted on the roof. Apparently, this was always an axle dent waiting to happen. They named their horse car Marge, and well, Marge's head fell off on the highway on the way to the track. Team Captain Amrit's wife had to go collect it.
Jesus Christ. So embarrassed right now. I hate you guys so much.
Now, at the last Sonoma race, Crazy Mike's Beetle Scrubby, it burst into flame. Now, most of us would say, oh, better fix what's wrong with the car. But no, he just said, okay, from now on, we're Fahrenheit 451. That's our theme. To be fair, they did actually finish the race for the first time in, I don't know, like 8 years. So, I mean, maybe he's on to something.
Who's crazy now?
And while I have the microphone, I want to mention Not All Us and their 944. I don't know if you recall Team Anal Probe, fittingly enough, they were the ones where their shop is in San Diego, and it was totally buried under sewage water, like to head height for a long time. So this was one of the cars that was in that shop. They pulled it out. They washed out all the doo-doo water, so they thought. They put a new paint job on it. Unfortunately, they missed some of the doo-doo water in the steering column. Not a great weekend for these guys.
Another car scavenged from a natural disaster is the Don Gier Passat TDI. We always love seeing this thing roll coal on the racetrack. It was partially melted in a wildfire, but it turns out that might have been a blessing in the skies because these guys have turned it into the perfect Lemons car. Hell sweet. Here are your class winners. Worth mentioning, the Class B race was neck and neck and came right down to the tire. Car number 118, the Lexus, was leading but had to slow down or risk running out of gas. That allowed the Team Shitbox Spitfire to edge them out on the way to a last lap win. Welcome to Class A, gentlemen. And talking about Class A, Table for One in like their 50th Lemons race finally won. Awesome to see a long-suffering team do well.
All right, let's talk about trophies we actually care about, starting with the Heroic Fix. This went to Condition Critical and their 86 box body V6 Mustang. They blew up their motor at a previous race, usually no problem. However, the only motor they could find was a 2000s version. They said, it'll probably bolt right up to our 80s transmission and our crappy 80s car. It did not. Just some of the weird stuff they had to do to make this thing work. First, they had to take the head bolts, and then they had to get them sort of right there. Gasket was going to fail. They timed it. They said, we're just going to go out for the very last part. They did roll the last 45 minutes of the track, and they took the checker.
I Got Screwed went to Almost Average Autosports and their Mini. Now, this particular screwing might have been partially my fault. When they showed up, I did the thing that everybody hates, and I said, yeah, I think these guys are going to have a pretty good weekend.
It's the kiss of death, yo!
About 5 laps into the race, they had a bit of a fly in the oyster when the beaver tail off the Colonel Angus Focus flew up and destroyed their windshield. Now, they spent half the day waiting for the auto glass guy, Enrique, who is amazing, by the way, to come and replace it. Their car ran like a train for the rest of the weekend. It was just a very lemony incident. I mean, when was the last time you saw a beaver tail related incident in F1? Ah, right. Never. Should mention, by the way, Colonel Angus did pay for the windshield that they broke.
Colonel Angus.
The special trophy at this race was the Corbomite Can't Maneuver Award, and this went to the Crown Vic of, well, they said it was Infinity and Beyond, but in fact, they were trying to boldly misspell where no one has misspelled before. I think it was Infinite Y and Beyond. Doesn't matter. There were 2 black Crown Vics in this race, and they were hotly contesting for like 94th place most of the weekend. One of them, boring-ass car, no theme at all. The guy's got lots of black flags. And the other one was these guys with a cool Star Trek Enterprise right on top. Now, the Trekkies, they had their own series of mishaps. They blew a rear axle. They had to go to Pinole. If you're from California, you know what that means. And then they had to install it in the paddock. They even had a little minor contact, but you know what? They still managed to eke out like 30 additional laps over that other boring Crown Vic. This is how you introduce yourself to lemons. Well done.
Judge's choice went to Infinitely Good Racing and their 340,000-mile Infinity G20. These rookies were on cloud 97 the whole race, and their energy was totally infectious. They were self-reporting to penalty when they hadn't done anything wrong, but just wanted to be extra sure and respectful. They were cheering on their competitors just as hard as their own car, and they had more fun, we think, than anybody else all weekend. Really elevated the vibe in the paddock. It's exactly the kind of energy we love seeing from new people in Lemons. Great job, guys. And an Infinity G20?
Not bad at all.
Organizer's choice went to the Tally-Ho Triumph Spitfire. They did a Battle of Britain theme, and they were fully committed. They had a working propeller. They had ailerons. They wandered the paddock giving out sweets and biscuits and tea. I mean, they did everything right except that they brought an actual Triumph Spitfire. So needless to say, that blew up irrevocably after like 15 laps. This was really kind of heartbreaking, but they were so good and they were so dedicated to their theme. We could not let them go home without a trophy, even if they went home without a running car.
Good show.
The Halloween Meets Gasoline trophy for the best theme of the weekend went to Del Camino and their 94 Del Sol. Yes, that's a Del Sol. And they were themed as everyone's favorite Kazakhstani.
You mean Abay Kunanbayev?
No.
You mean Nursultan Nazarbayev?
What? No.
Oh, God, you're talking about Borat, aren't you?
Bing Pot. These guys were in character all weekend. They sang for us.
Kazakhstan!
They passed out ice cream through BS inspection. Borat in the penalty box. Borat at the Honda meet. They strutted Sorry for Party style through the paddock, even got the wife and kids in on the fun by bringing them through BS in a cage.
She's a sister.
That's not weird at all. Anyway, HMG comes with a $1,000 prize, but that probably won't even begin to cover the cost of therapy for those kids. Anyway, all that's really to say, very nice.
Great success.
And that just takes us to the IOE, and this went to Almost Ready Racing and their Escort. This is the top prize in Lemons, and it went to the car with the slowest lap time of the weekend. Nevertheless, the important thing is they beat more than half the field in this car. Now, you don't want to look too closely at this car. First of all, it's like 3 different generations of Escort, kind of ugly, all put together to make one. Also, they had a Dr. Pecker theme. You do not want to see the nutrition on it label. It is just a top ingredient, hot mess. All the same, fabulous car, fabulous performance. Best of all, I think Eric has a particular soft spot for Escorts. His family has always had them. Eric has raced Escorts. Eric, what do you have to say to the average fan who disparages the Ford Escort as a hot racing car?
Well, people in houses shouldn't throw stones.
Don't you mean glass houses?
Yeah, a stone will go through drywall if you throw it hard enough. Anyway, my wife went to go stay with her sister.
Here's Lemons in a nutshell.
Every second you don't subscribe or watch one of these videos, another Vega is sent to the crusher. Won't you help us save Classic?